of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer?
Here.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Here.
Councilmember Sagerstrom?
Here.
And Councilmember Such?
Here.
Okay, all of us are here. 2 are by Zoom. Okay, City Clerk's report on agenda posting.
The agenda was posted on Thursday, August 12th at 3 p.m.
Okay, and approval of the agenda, and then I'm going to come back to closed session, so we don't forget.
No changes on the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and then just let everyone know, during closed session, we gave city staff direction. Okay, presentations. Receive a COVID-19 update from the Tuwami County Public Health Department.
And Mr. Mayor, it looks as though you have Michelle Giacchetta, Director of Public Health, and also Dr. Serjanko, your Public Health Officer for the County of Tuwami, on the line for you.
Excellent. Welcome.
Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting us. And I think if I can share something, I will do so. And then Michelle also has the update for the board, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So I'll start with let's see if I can actually share my screen, and then we'll go from there.
We did make you co-host, Dr. Serjanko, so you should be able to share.
Okay, great. So hopefully you're looking at a slide with a bunch of scary lines on them.
Yes.
All right. So this is data associated with the case rates that we're seeing not only in Tuwami County, but our adjacent counties. And this is the 7-day average. And so you may remember that was what was used for the Blueprint for a Safer Economy when we were using that plan to mitigate the impacts of COVID, not only in our county, but in our state. And it uses a 7-day average that excludes folks that are in prison. We actually do right now have a fairly significant outbreak in SCC, but those numbers don't count here, at least as far as the inmates. Cases that do reside in Tuwami that work there do get counted in here. So what I would draw your attention to is the light blue line is Tuwami. And on the y-axis is the case rate. And so as you can see that topping out at the end of the July, we were looking at 45 cases per 100,000 as a daily average. And if you recall back to the surge that we had back in January and February, our peak back then was actually about 36 per 100,000. So we've exceeded that surge that we saw in the winter surge. And we are seeing a slight decline here. I think that's actually to a certain extent real, but also some data lag, because Shelley will go into some of the reports from today, our current update. But I think it's important to recognize that we've exceeded what we had seen in the winter. We are not seeing the same number of fatalities as we saw in the winter. And I think that's because we have not seen the impact yet on our hospitalization, though we are seeing that surge starting to begin and building up on that. And I'm going to actually do hopefully something that will not end. I'm going to actually go back a little bit. We're not the only place that is seeing this. Is the different regions of California. And we're part of the San Joaquin Valley Consortium, which is this purple line at the bottom. And so all of the other regions of California are seeing a similar uptick in cases. So fairly significant, not just for us, but for the entire state, and actually really for the country as a whole because of the Delta variant. And I'm going to scroll down to hospitalizations. And so apologize for all the moving around, but this is looking at the counties that are around us, and typically where we send patients to, as well as our own county. And again, this data is from last week. We get updates on Tuesdays. So apologize, you're getting data that's a little bit lagged, but this reflects the change. I would draw your attention to both Fresno and Stanislaus, where we get our tertiary care centers, and Madera, where our pediatric hospital is at. And we're seeing these increase in inpatient admissions, 50% in Fresno, 40% increase in Stanislaus. This is the third week running where we have seen increases across all of the hospitals. It had been earlier in this surge that you'd be able to decompress one hospital or another, and you'd have a decrease in admissions. But at this point in time, we're seeing all hospitals getting filled with COVID patients. As an example, in Adventist Sonora, about a third of the patients there are COVID positive, are being treated for symptoms. There are a number that are on ventilators, and Shelley has details on that. So again, as we're looking at this, we're continuing to see this uptick, a very rapid rise in cases followed by a rapid rise in hospitalizations, and we're starting to see more deaths associated with that. And that gets to kind of projections for this, is that if we are like the two countries that have been studied most about this, which is India and England, their Delta wave, their surge associated with the Delta variant, did not last as long as we saw the winter surge. The winter surge really lasted from December through to the end of February and into March. For the Delta wave that occurred in both India and England, it lasted about 6 to 8 weeks. And the state, one of their models anticipates that the peak really will be occurring over the next week between the 20th and 22nd of August. I'm hopeful that is the case. And that would align with where we saw an increase in cases starting about the 15th of July. But again, that's the peak. We would see a decline in cases from that way, probably going into the middle of September. And it's hard to predict what the impact of returning to school will have, but also working sort of in our favor, as we know every time we have a decrease in population mobility, so less visitors to Yosemite, less visitors to Tuwami, we see a decrease in cases associated with that. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point and let Michelle show some of her slides, and then we'll be available for questions.
Good evening. Thanks for having us, as Dr. Surjenko mentioned. He did a really great job covering and summarizing what's going on. So the only thing I would add is that we're a little bit late getting our daily update out today. Mondays are always a little bit delayed, as we have a whole weekend's worth of data to scrunch. But we had 17 cases on Saturday and are reporting very shortly here 79 cases from yesterday and today. So we continue to see that very high case rate. Today's case rate is about 54.9 is our 14-day rolling average per 100,000. So far, far above what we would have needed to get into the purple tier back in the blueprint days. And we are also reporting 3 additional deaths today. So we are seeing that lag between when folks start to get sick and end up in the hospital. We have seen, as you all have noticed in our reports, a large number of folks in the hospital. I'm seeing even younger folks in the hospital. And now, sadly, we're seeing some additional deaths. So that's really hard for us to see, and that's tough. So the hospital does continue to be quite impacted. They had 18 or 19 individuals hospitalized today, and 0 ICU beds available. I did want to announce that our testing site is being located back to Sonora, back to the fairgrounds. So that will be a little closer for folks at the same building that it was at Motherwood Fairgrounds. They're moving it today and tomorrow, and it will be open there Wednesday. It's planning to be open at 10 a.m. Wednesday, but then it will be open 7 days a week, 7 to 7. And for today and tomorrow, they can still go to Tuwami. We continue to navigate some of the new state health officer orders that have been issued, including, the requirement to verify vaccine for healthcare workers and visitors to acute care hospitals and long-term care settings, as well as vaccine verifications for workers in schools. So we continue to work with our partners closely on that, and with our HR departments and business and community partners on how that will be implemented locally. So, again, our concern is this case rate, and we do hope to see that go down. As Dr. Surgenko mentioned, according to the models, we are hoping that that's the case, and that once school opens next week, we don't see an impact to that. But as everyone's probably aware, masks are required for students and staff at the beginning of the school year, so that everybody can get back to school in person, full time, and keeping everybody safe doing so. I thought there was one thing else I wanted to mention. Oh, anyway, and vaccination. Vaccination is still the best layer that we can put on. About 10 to 15% of our cases in the last few weeks have been breakthrough cases, meaning 85-90% of the cases are unvaccinated. So that is still our best layer, but also now with masking indoors, that adds that extra layer to help keep everyone safe. And also, we have some challenges with folks going to school and work while they are symptomatic. And that's a challenge that we are facing and would like to share with the public, is the importance of, if you're having any symptoms, stay home, get tested. Even if you're vaccinated, just go get a test. But we're seeing people go to work and to school and spreading that amongst their coworkers and their peers. And so we're hoping to address that. And I think that's it, unless anyone has questions.
Any members of the council have any? Go ahead, Councilmember Such.
Thank you both very much. I have a few questions. One, and either of you can answer this. But Dr. Surgenko, you said that the Delta associated surge doesn't last as long. Do you know why that is? Are there any ideas?
I think my guess would be, and it is just a speculation, is that you saw the acceleration in cases. So rather than having a lower case rate over an extended period of time, it rapidly moves through the population and infects vulnerable populations. And the other thing I would say with this wave is that we're seeing more clusters, both in the workplace and at home. So with previous surges, we'd see one case in a household, and we're seeing it really, like if you've got an adult in the household, they'll transmit it to the kids in the household. And so instead of just 1 or 2 cases, you'll have 2 to 4 cases. And so that kind of, again, if you have that number of people sick, then people stay at home, they don't transmit it to other locations. And so it kind of tamps it down a little bit faster.
Thanks. And I think, Michelle, this one's for you. How's testing? Are people getting tested frequently enough, or do you want to see more testing?
Yes and yes, sort of. So we the testing site, we had it expanded to 5 days. This happened all really quickly, as it was open 3 days, and we're like, oh, we need more. So we opened to 5 days a week, and then we just starting Friday opened to 7 days a week because of the increased demand. It had gotten quite low when things weren't so crazy, and then we just started seeing a lot of people testing. So they are now doing at least their capacity for the day. I believe it's 190-ish that they are, that's their capacity for the day, but they are accommodating more and doing over 200. They did over 200 Sunday. So a lot of people testing, but there are a lot of people sick too. So our test positivity also remains pretty high. And, but with some of the new requirements that are out for surveillance testing, more individuals are getting tested. So, we like to continue to see those numbers stay up just to make sure that we're doing adequate surveillance in the community and able to, identify cases and get them isolated and try to prevent further spread. So the site will be open, continued 7 days a week. And we're actually going to request the second lane like we had for a while during our previous surge so that they can accommodate more individuals per day.
I just want to say that the Tuwami Veterans Hall site has done a great job. I've been tested 3 times there, and I'm really pleased, really good service. And that was always true when it was at the fairgrounds as well.
Great, thank you.
Great service, thanks.
Councilmember Segestrom.
Thanks. I also want to endorse the testing. It's much easier to make an appointment and get tested. I tried to do it at Rite Aid. It was just a nightmare. So the county testing is very easy to navigate. I also wanted to confirm with Dr. Sargento. I was also privileged to hear your presentation on last Thursday at the Yes Partnership, and you were indicating that vaccine effectiveness results in a 10-fold reduction of hospitalization and death. Is this still the case?
Yeah, I mean, the data is changing, but it still is protective. The last data that I saw from the state in regards to this was, about a 6.3 fold reduction in becoming infected, and then still about a 10-fold reduction in hospitalization and death. So still very protective as compared to unvaccinated individuals.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from council up here?
I do. So I believe this question is for Dr. Sargento, and that is, since most of these cases, as I understand it, are now the Delta variant, what's the ratio of deaths and hospitalization compared to the classic COVID-19? Because really those are the numbers that should be concerning us, I would think.
Yeah, no, I concur. Is that, if it were just, and actually that's probably not true either. If it was just illness, we would be less concerned if there weren't resultant hospitalizations and deaths. And so, take out the long haul syndrome, which still is occurring in Delta variants, as best we know, about 10% of Delta cases. And you're correct in saying about 93% of all sequences right now are Delta. So we are seeing hospitalizations, and that's occurring at about the same rate as previous surges. And that's why we are in a challenging position with no ICU beds available at Adventist Sonora, and having a challenge in transferring patients to available ICU beds within the region. We are, however, seeing fewer deaths, and I think that ties into one thing is that we're still early in this surge, and we know that the death lag about 2 weeks, 10 days to 14 days after we see cases. And so we may be early in that. The other thing is we're seeing younger people who are becoming ill and becoming hospitalized. As an example, a 26-year-old who required extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, that is basically sucking out your blood, oxygenating it, putting it back in. Another person who was in their 40s who required transfer for a lung transplant. The other thing with these younger patients, and what puts us in more of a surge, is that they will survive. They just require longer care over a longer or more care over a longer period of time than older people that we saw in the first 2 waves. So yeah, getting back to your point, still concerned though about the amount of hospital resources that are being consumed for this particular surge, and thinking about what we can do to mitigate it.
One would hope that, as because this is traveling through the population so much more quickly, that it would also decrease faster as well, as far as the ICU beds being over exercised. Okay, so a follow-up question for that is children. You said young people. Well, I guess the first follow-up question I have is, if someone is hospitalized, and it sounds like this variant is far more infectious, and then giving us virtually the same amount of hospitalizations, even though thus far deaths are not at the same rate. What are the long-term effects, or do we know much about permanent disabilities associated with having been ill enough to have to go to the hospital? I guess that's a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, no, so what are the long-term effects associated with COVID? And it's still out there, but especially with the Delta variant, and there's, we're still in that data collection phase. Is this causing more serious disease, or just causing more people to be sick, thus causing more people to go to the hospitals? But certainly if you look at the disability of someone who's been on ECMO or had a lung transplant, and again, those are, anecdotal. They're one patient, but the resources associated with taking care of that one patient are enormous. And so you can imagine that that person is going to have a long tail and a long recovery period, lung transplants forever. So I think that's a consideration. And then again, not even thinking about what's called the long haul syndrome, where people have persistent challenges with memory, with lung function, with things like not having taste come back for months, or even, for the length of the pandemic to date. So a lot to be learned about that, but we do have persistent cases that are still recovering.
Okay, and let's just say under 25 or even under 20, young people to children, is there a similarly low risk as there was with the classic, or is it pretty similar or greater? I mean, more of them are going to get it. So probably we're all going to be exposed to it with the greater transmissibility. I'm trying to determine and ask for the public, how scared do we need to be for our children?
So I don't know. That's, I'm one of these guys who avoids scare and fear. It's like, what's the risk, and how do you think about it objectively? And we do know that kids are getting infected more, and that does lead to more hospitalizations. And so as an example, we've had kids under the age of 12 in Tuwami that have required hospitalization, but thankfully have not required extensive hospitalization or ICU level care. So I think we, at this point, don't know as much about the Delta variant in kids. We do know that they are seeing more hospitalizations at Valley Children's Hospitals associated with COVID. But is that just a reflection of the increased level of transmission? And I tend to favor at this point that it's that, rather than an increased severity of disease. So more to follow on that. I think that's the best I can say at this point.
Okay, were the children being hospitalized also suffering from other comorbidities? Or
No, I think that's another thing that it's a takeaway, is that as we look at kids, many of them do not, just like the young adults that we're seeing being hospitalized, is they do not have associated comorbidities that you'd seen with earlier cases back in January or February.
Well, that's pretty concerning. And I think then for Ms. Jaqueta, I have one question as well, and that is there anywhere in the county, my understanding is it's really hard to find places where one can be tested for antibodies if one believes that one's already had the virus. Is there any place? Because I was tested, for example, previously, and they just told me if I had it or if I didn't have it, not if I had it.
This question hasn't come up for a while, but previously you could request that of your healthcare provider, and they could order it like they would other labs. I'm not sure if Dr. Surjenko has other information, but I'm not aware of any broader, like, come here to test for antibodies. But I think you could talk to your healthcare provider and they could determine if that's needed.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm done.
Cool. Councilmember Sagestrom, I see you had another question.
Yeah, for either Dr. Surgento or Michelle Jaquetta, what's the vaccination rate in Tuwami County?
We're still right around 52% of the eligible population vaccinated. I did just get some data from the state and I haven't had a chance to even open it yet. So, hopefully we're eking up there a little bit because we are seeing more folks show up to our clinics and getting their second shots and then starting their series. So hopefully we're on our way up there. We did well with our 65 and older group. It's the younger age groups, especially that actually the working age group, the 18 to 60-year-olds, we've had a pretty low vaccination rate. So hoping to get those folks on board, get them protected and help them protect the people around them.
Thank you.
Shelley, is the 52%, is that fully vaccinated or partially vaccinated, or just have at least one shot?
That's fully vaccinated.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Such.
Let's see. I'm just curious if you can speak about any new variants out there. Are there any new things that we should be concerned about? I know that I think that there are some new variants, but I don't know that they're necessarily more transmissible or.
Yeah, no, I think, one area or one variant of concern that may not be a concern is the Lambda variant that originally appeared in Peru and then caused significant impacts in Chile. And the concern with it is it has the potential for vaccine escape. But as much as there's been bad news with Delta, it actually has some protection against Lambda because it's such a dominant, such efficiently spreading virus that it kind of quenched whatever introduction of Lambda has happened in the United States, because it's only been picked up in a couple locations within the United States and just kind of stopped there because there's just so much Delta, and Delta is so effectively spreading. And that's, to be honest, that is the typical, you think about evolutionary pressures, is if it spreads more effectively, it'll out compete any other variant. And so even though the Lambda is more severe, the Delta is more effective at spreading. So there's evolutionary pressures to favor Delta over Lambda. And so we might not need to worry about it.
That's great news. Thanks.
Any other council members have any questions? Okay. Thank you to the both of you, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
having us.
Stay well.
You as
all
well.
too.
Bye.
Okay, on next to public comment for non-agenda items. The public may address the council on any item of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action can be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on subsequent meeting agendas. Speakers are limited to a 3-minute presentation. Would anyone like to make a public comment on any non-agenda items? Yay.
Hi, I'm Gary Johnson. I'm the director of the Volunteer Fair. And the 2021 Tuwami County Volunteer Fair has been changed to a live event, to a TV show. After the county public health recommended against events with over 50 people, we looked for a plan B and decided to create a TV show to help publicize the nonprofits who had registered for the August 26th Volunteer Fair. The nonprofits have the opportunity to record a 2.5-minute segment with Access Tuwami, which will then be compiled into a TV show debuting on Access Tuwami on August 26th, the date of the when the volunteer fair was supposed to happen. The individual segments will also be on the nonprofit profiles on their website. Also, each organization will be given their recorded segment to place on their own website to help attract willing volunteers throughout the years to come. We are grateful to Sonora Area Foundation for underwriting this show and allowing us the opportunity to showcase local nonprofits in a time when they need volunteers more than ever. If you need more information about what the Volunteer Fair is doing for the community, you can go to our website, which is tcvfair.org. If you look on my back, tcvfair.org, and we also have a Facebook page that'll update you on all the changes that are happening. Please help us to spread the word that there will not, I repeat, not be a live event, a live volunteer fair, and how people can go to our website to learn how to become a volunteer in Tuwami County throughout the year and forevermore. Any questions?
Any questions from Councilmember Such?
Did you give a deadline for when you have to fill out the application or apply to be filmed by Access
Or
Tuwami?
to be part of the volunteer fair?
Yes.
Okay, we actually have cut that. There's 69 organizations, nonprofits, and now that has already, the deadline's already passed, because now we are actually recording videos.
Okay.
And we have to record about four or five today. I did mine on Saturday. So anyway, and it's going to be a great opportunity to, watch the whole thing or just watch individual segments. Any other questions?
Councilmember Segestrom.
Yes, I'm so sorry that the volunteer fair has been reduced to a program, but I'll look forward to it. I really enjoyed the volunteer fair the last time that I went and visited all the booths. And so let's hope that next year it does become live again. But when can we look forward to seeing the segments from each nonprofit?
Okay, and as this is the first time a lot of people have heard that it's not actually happening, which makes people a little bit upset, but we're being safe. The segments, of course, the day of the volunteer fair, I am literally going to be at the volunteer fair at 4 p.m. That's when it was supposed to start on August 26th. That's when the actual program will be shown on Access Tuwami. I'll stay there till 7 in case people drive in. We can let them know. And of course, we're also going to give those videos to all the organizations who participate, and then they'll have them on their website, and we'll have it on our website.
Great. Okay, great. I'll look forward to August 26th.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Any other questions?
No, just probably point out too that the usual thing that we do at Access Tuwami is have it on our website as well, on Access Tuwami's website as well. So
Yes.
I imagine that program will be video on demand after the
Absolutely.
time of the first showing.
Yeah, you can watch it anytime you want.
Yep, you bet.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you're doing, really.
Well, it's a labor of love, and no one gets paid, but we get paid in a lot of compliments.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Okay, on public comment for any non-agenda items, anyone else? I have no idea who this lady is.
Yeah, never seen her.
Never seen her before.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Katie Dunn, President of the Sonora Chamber of Commerce. I have a couple of things I want to share with you. One is our August mixer is tomorrow night at La Tida Salon on Washington Street. It's where the old letter Buck used to be. So that's where it's going to be from 5:30 to 7 tomorrow night. Also, I have some flyers for our Gold Country Regional Golf Tournament. This used to be the Tri-Chamber Golf Tournament for the past 4 years. And obviously 2020, we took a hiatus on that. But Amador chamber pulled out this year. So now it's no longer the Tri-Chamber, but it's the Gold Country Regional Golf Tournament. And I have some flyers here. It's October 1st at Tulalip. This is co-hosted by the Sonora Chamber of Commerce and also the Calaveras Chamber of Commerce. And it's at Tulalip, like I said, October 1, 10 a.m., shotgun start. All the information's on the flyer. We're looking for sponsors, players. It would be fabulous if we had a showing from the city and the city council members. If you play golf, it would be wonderful. So that's all I have for the chamber. Now I'm going to put on, and you can let me know if I need to table this for the agenda item, but I'm going to put on my Airbnb host hat. And this is regarding TOT tax submission. Should I wait?
As long as it doesn't have to do with the agenda item we've got later,
Okay.
that should be fine.
So I am the co-owner of the Yosemite Gateway Getaways. My partner and I, we own 3 Airbnbs. One is in the city of Sonora, 2 are up in Pine Mountain Lake. So it's my understanding that you collect TOT tax directly from the host. You're unable to collect it from Airbnb. So perhaps this is already in motion, but it would be fantastic if there was a way you could create a platform where Airbnb hosts can go online with the city of Sonora and submit our TOT and pay online. It would be fabulous. It would be really easy for the 35 plus Airbnb hosts to be able to do that. Perhaps you'd get paid a little quicker than normally through the snail mail, but that's just my recommendation. So I wanted to share that.
You know, I'll try calling you and talking to you more about that because I've had some ideas too. So.
Oh, great.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, that's actually in progress. I can talk to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we are actually doing that as we speak. It does take additional resources and IT staff that we're kind of understaffed at this point, but we are looking at that and that will be coming out shortly.
That's fantastic news.
What's
Thank
that
you.
about how great minds think? So, and a question.
Sure.
So it sounded suspiciously like your mixer tomorrow night is in person.
It is in person.
Wow, okay.
Mhm.
That's a lot more attractive to a lot of people. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you.
We kind of leave that to the mixer host, what their comfort level is. We can also do virtual. We've been really successful with doing virtual mixers. So whatever their comfort level is, the Sonora Chamber received a lot of hand sanitizer and N95 masks from the county. So we will have them there at the door just in case somebody would like to sanitize and mask up.
And while I'm occupying the floor a little bit with you, I would like to thank you for the wonderful concert again in Coffle Park that the Chamber puts on. And
You're so welcome.
it's quite incredible. And
Thank
I would
you.
encourage all the other council members to attend occasionally.
I was on that board for a little while.
Yeah.
It was fun years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, talking about volunteering. I know you put in a lot of hours, Katie.
We're a
And others,
100%
too.
volunteer organization.
Yep. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You got. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Such, did you have a question? I apologize.
I'm back.
Thanks, Katie. What's the fee, the T fee or whatever you call it for the golf tournament?
So the T fee, it's the individual player fee is 185. A foursome is 695. And I can email you the PDF of the form if you'd like. And I have a few here left at the chamber.
And also, what's the skill level required?
Nobody has to worry.
Well, let me just say that we do have an
Nobody has to
award for the
worry.
last place player.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Oh, I have another question. Sorry.
I'm back.
I'm sorry. I should write my questions down. Is this to raise money for the Sonora Chamber or is there a specific?
Yeah, so it is actually to support economic development in the Central Sierra foothills. So we're doing this we are combining our efforts. We're co-hosting with Calaveras Chamber.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
It's a good cause.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on non-agenda public comment? Okay. Excellent. I love it. We got a crowd tonight. Okay. Going to go on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be voted on in one motion unless a council member or member of the public has a question or wishes to discuss an item. In that case, item will be removed from the consent calendar, considered separately. Approval of disbursements in the amount of $154,673.67 for payroll, inclusive of employee salaries, employer and employee taxes, and retirement contributions, miscellaneous voluntary employee deductions, holiday pay, and other adjustments.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Yeah, we gotta, you're quick tonight, Mark. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, bring it back to the council.
I will again move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Plummer, a second by Councilmember Garaventa. All in favor, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Segerstrom?
Aye.
And Councilmember Such?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. On to wait a second. Yes, unfinished business. Sorry, I was looking, I misread. Okay, on unfinished business, receive an update on use of funds donated from Faith Hamilton Senior Project to purchase load-bearing vest for patrol officers. No action is required. Chief Vanderweel.
Mr. Mayor, a big part of this was to present the finished project here in person. We have an incident downtown that's kind of draining some resources right now. If it works for you and council, if we could possibly switch item number 4 and 5 for the time being, possibly the officers will be cleared by then.
I think that'll work. I think it's probably going to take a little more time is my guess. So maybe we can hold it off till after new business before monthly reports, unless they come back early and then we can pause. Does that work for the
If that's
council?
okay with Faith and her family. I don't want to make them.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't, guys waited.
Yeah, our police
Hate to
officers right now
make
are
you
doing
wait.
a job that none of us want to do, and we're very thankful they're there.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just for the record to show we are pulling item 4 to be heard before or after new business and before monthly reports.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
Okay, on item number 5, consideration to waive second reading and adopt ordinance number 880, an ordinance of the City of Sonora Council of the City of Sonora, amending Chapter 17.64 Transient Use Permit. Mary Rose.
Good evening, council members. The item before you is to consideration to waive your second reading and adopt ordinance number 880, which amends Chapter 17.64 of your transient use permit. This ordinance 880 was approved. The first reading was approved on August 2nd by a 4-1 vote. This item has come before the council several times now, beginning in February during the goal setting session, where the council directed staff to come up with solutions addressing our housing affordability shortage within the city of Sonora, and also addressing issues to mitigate our homeless population. We've also talked at multiple meetings in regards to looking at the issue concerning your short-term rental usage within the city of Sonora, and talked about the increase of short-term rental usage over long-term rental usage within the city of Sonora. So as I do at all meetings in regards to this ordinance, I talk about what is currently happening in the city of Sonora within our rental market. Currently, within the last 2 weeks from our last meeting on August 2nd, we're seeing availability of rentals of about 2 to 3 available spaces, which is about on par of what we've been seeing now for the last couple of months, anywhere between 0 to 3 to 4 of availability of rentals for our city of Sonora residents. However, what we have noticed within the last couple of weeks is an uptick of new Airbnb unpermitted, not in compliance Airbnb short-term rentals being advertised within those online hosting platforms. We have seen about 6 new rentals being advertised within the last couple of weeks. When checking the property ownership of those rentals, we have noticed that 5 of the 6 are from Bay Area owners that are using these properties as second homes to rent out as Airbnbs. So some of the factors that we had addressed during our study session in regards to non-locals purchasing and then renting from a short-term usage that were historically long-term rentals previously, or long-term homes, we should say, not just rentals. So I just wanted to apprise the City Council on the additional rentals, still looking at about anywhere from a 0 to 3 to 4 at any given time, but are noticing also an uptick. Again, the 6 that we are seeing is in addition to the 10 that we already know that were unpermitted. And so I wanted to allow the City Council to be aware of what we're seeing as well. We are trying to contact those property owners and letting them know that they are in non-compliant as of right now, even under the current regulations. As you know, the new Ordinance 880 would add additional enforcement mechanisms as administrative penalties for those that are non-compliant. And so for the public's knowledge, the new Ordinance 880 does address enforcement from an administrative penalty standpoint, that those that do not have a permit that adheres to this ordinance, such as the primary residency component and the other safety requirements, administrative penalties of up to $500 per day could be administered for the first violation, and up to $1,000 per day for any subsequent violation, or revocation of the permit if they had one to begin with. So at this time, again, this is your second reading and adoption of Ordinance 880. Again, I think this is about your 8th meeting that we have addressed short-term rentals. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Councilmember Such. They both
I
beat
don't
you.
have really any questions. I will make some statements, and I think all of us
Okay.
will probably, but.
Councilmember Such and then Councilmember Sagestrom.
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I guess I missed this the last time, but on page 10 of the policy, or page of the resolution or the policy, and page 19 of in the packet, number F on carbon monoxide alarms. I'm just curious why smoke alarms are very specific, that they must be installed at a minimum in each bedroom and at least one alarm in every level of the short-term rental, including basements and habitable attics. But carbon monoxide just says shall be installed in accordance with current California building code requirements. Why don't carbon monoxide alarms have to be in the same place as smoke alarms?
I'm going to let your fire chief handle that question for you. She's coming up right now, Councilmember Such.
Thanks. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The smoke detectors are based off the current California Fire Code, and that's where they are required to be in any kind of residential. On the carbon monoxide, it depends on if there's propane in the building or not, and where those, usually those appliances are located, in a garage or outside the house or in a closet. So that's depending on where they're located. So that's why we left it a little more vague in the code.
Makes total sense. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, then Councilmember Sagestrom.
Yeah, I was, the new non-compliant Airbnbs, I mean, that they would not have access to permits, would they? Or will they have access to permits if they comply with, oh, well, I don't know what, they're just kind of floating out there, so they're just.
So as of right now, Councilmember Sagestrom, they would not have access to permits because we do have a moratorium. So no, we have not permitted any short-term rental after March 16th. So any rental that we're not seeing that is being permitted, that is operating, obviously is non-compliant.
Okay.
So anything after March 16th, though, however, if the council so chooses to move with this adoption, would have that additional added requirement of primary residency versus second home, which is what we're seeing happening right now with the non-compliant rentals that we noticed within the last couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, if I may. sorry about that. Of the new resolution on the first whereas, I'm a little confused by the language and think that it's missing a word.
Okay, you're gonna have to get us to what page in the.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's page 24 and the very first whereas. Whereas like many California cities and counties, the city of Sonora is experiencing general housing and housing affordability. And I think that we're missing shortage there like we have in the following whereas.
Yep.
It will make a lot more, because by itself, it makes no sense at all, really.
Yep.
Okay. Unless I'm misunderstanding, but, so.
Okay.
And beyond that, I have nothing really to address.
I have nothing, no.
Yeah, I've already stated pretty much what I thought in the past, that I believe most of this is really, really good, but, well, I've already said everything I have said, so ditto on that. So I will ask for public comment on this matter. Is there any public comment? We have a quiet crowd tonight. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second and then a roll call vote.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and move to waive the second reading and adopt ordinance number 880, an ordinance with the city council of the city of Sonora, amending chapter 17.64, quote, transient use permit, unquote, with the error of, or fixing the error of the word shortage in the resolution.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Segestrom. Roll call vote, please.
Maybe we make some statements before we actually vote on it.
Okay. Mayor
So,
Pro Tem would like to make a couple statements.
well, it's just, I am going to vote for this, but in the last time I voted against it, and I think that some clarity would be useful to the public and maybe explain why I'm doing that. And so I believe that the objective of what we're doing is useful and desirable at this particular juncture in our city. I voted against it because I unpersuasively argued for nearly an hour that we need to provide a greater sense of predictability for our business environment for anybody who's investing $250,000, $500,000 in a business. And I wanted to see our moratorium extended out. That did not pass, but I support our overall mission on this ordinance, and I think we need to try it. And with that, I will cede the floor. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Segestrom,
I don't think it's ideal, but I think we should try it.
and Councilmember Such.
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Okay, on to new business.
Mr. Mayor, if I would, just for the public's knowledge, the ordinance takes effect within 30 days. So
I was
we
thinking
would,
60 days. Okay,
it's
thank
30
you.
days. So as far as accepting applications, it would not be until that the full adoption of that ordinance, which is within 30 days.
Okay, and that would be right around mid-September. Okay, thank you. Okay, on to new business, item number 6. Adopt resolution number 8-16-2021A, establishing the Dragon Gulch Trail Event Use Permit for special events / fundraisers and use permit fee, and establishing a bench sponsorship fee. Say that 10 times real fast.
Thank you.
Rochelle.
Thank you. Prior to COVID, we were beginning to get a lot of interest of holding events out at Dragoon Gulch. Then COVID came and basically there were no events anywhere. So staff was working on other things. But as we started to open up again, we did again receive some interest in holding events at Dragoon Gulch at the trail. Some for nonprofits and some also profits association type stuff, and not necessarily a fundraisers, but just to use it like for a bike activity. One of the ones that's pending right now is for a cancer 5K walk out of the trail, or includes part of the trail. And so we're coming forward to you tonight, and staff is recommending that we look at fees to charge a fee for the trail to help with the ongoing maintenance of the trail. As you know, in the past, we were really blessed to have Baseline Camp do a lot of work for us. So those guys are gone. That doesn't exist anymore. We paid $200 a day for Baseline, and so we could get a lot of fire clearance and a lot done out of the trail and a lot of maintenance work done. I just got a quote from CCC for work in our creeks, and it's $3,000 a day.
Just California
And
Conservation.
that's not, we haven't reached out to the private sector yet, but we'll be looking for their assistance along the trail. So we are going to have a huge increase in cost as far as the maintenance of the trail. We do have a caretaker that resides, Kevin Anderson, and he does a lot of work for us. But there is some major work that has to be done every year out at the trail, and especially we want to make sure we stay diligent on our fire clearance activities out there. So with that in mind, we feel strongly that we need to look at a fee structure for using the trail. We do the same like at the Opera Hall and other facilities that the city allows events to occur or people to utilize it. Also, when we do have events out there, it does impact the day-to-day users of the trail. There are a lot of people that use it daily, weekly, and hundreds of people are out there. So it does impact them, especially the larger events. So when we looked at a fee that we thought was reasonable, but yes, yet would assist in the ongoing maintenance and also kind of make sure that there was an application process that we could clearly make sure they weren't impacting the neighbors' parking and those types of things. So we are looking at fees from 50 to 100 participants. The fee would be $150, and that's up to 4 consecutive days. Our interim business license for events are for 4 days under the business for your business license if you want to do an interim, like have an event. So we wanted to stay consistent so it's easier for everybody to keep track of. And so that's why we did the 4 consecutive days. 101 to 250 participants, $500 for up to 4 consecutive days, and over 251 participants, $750 for up to 4 consecutive days. And that's what staff is recommending. For those events that are smaller than 50 people, we do have, the college will use it for some classes that they might have. We also have a small mountain bike group of youth that use it. They can continue to use the special event application. They aren't restricted to the 4 days. They might use it once a week for a couple of months or whatever it is. And so we can do that. We can handle that as we always handled it. And that is through the regular special event application, and that includes a $50 fee. But it does give us a little bit more flexibility, and it's not such a large impact. The other thing that has come up on several occasions now is people are looking to sponsor benches out at the trail, similar to what they do in our downtown. And so we looked at the same fee for sponsoring a bench out at the trail as we charge for our benches downtown, and that was $1,500 a bench. Includes a plaque that we would have made, and then Public Works would install it on the bench. And so those are the 2 things that are included in the resolution that's attached. It's Resolution 08-16-2021A. And again, we are recommending approval. Events out there do impact the trail as well as the neighborhood. We do have limited parking available, so we want to make sure that we are regulating that. And then also, it does impact other fundraisers that might actually benefit the trail. So we want to make sure that we are getting some funding coming in. So that was all that I have for you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Question for staff,
Mm-hmm.
and that is for the benches, Okay, if we have are we gonna be adding benches or just put multiple plaques on a given bench if we have more demand than supply?
So we'll do the sponsor of the bench, so it would be an individual bench. We can do it easily on the ones out at the trail. So if there's two people that want to go together and do a bench, we can accommodate that as well. There are other areas of the trail that we want to add some benches to. So if they want a new bench, then we can do that, and then get some of the areas on the Vista that we haven't added benches to, we'll add some new benches. But there's several benches out there, so if demand exceeds supply, that's a good thing.
Okay.
And we'll go get some more benches, and that'll help with the trail, so that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Segestrom.
Yeah, hi. This is a great plan, Rochelle, and I enjoy the trail immensely. And so I'm glad to know that it's going to have some support in perpetuity. But so when you're talking about benches, are we talking about wooden benches, or you aren't talking about the kind of metal? It's more kind of city street bench. What kind of bench are we talking about?
The benches will match what's already out at the trail.
So it's that wooden.
They're metal flat benches. Yeah, they'll be the same benches that we have currently.
Great. And then this may not be germane, but is there a leash law or a leash ordinance for that park?
So there's a leash law for the whole city of Sonora, and that includes the trail. And we do have signs to tell people to watch, to keep their dogs on a leash. I know when I'm out there, I tell people to put their dog on a leash, but
yeah, because it's not often followed. But thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, they are supposed to have it on a leash.
Yeah. Thank you. That sounds like a terrific plan.
Thanks.
I think I remember Ron Stern telling me that was one of the things he championed back in the 60s when he was running.
Dog leashes?
The dog leash.
Oh.
Yeah. So, anyone else have any questions? Okay, then I will, and I'll make some comments after public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? Oh, no public comment? Okay. So then I'll bring it back to the council. I'll just throw a couple things out there. This is not something the city was really looking at wanting to do. But our cost for fire prevention out there on the trail went, and building trails and repairing trails and everything else that I can't remember the name of the group. I remember the second name for the CCC.
The baseline camp.
Yes, the baseline camp. I get them confused. But it went up from $200 to $3,000. That's what, a 15 times the increase. So, this is not something we're looking forward to doing, but it's unfortunately necessary because we have to maintain, we have to maintain our fire standards out there. And it borderlines homes, and that is a great fire protection area that is still, it's in the outdoors. So, I support this. I just hate to see any fee or tax or anything else go up, but it's reality. So, Councilmember Garavena. Sorry, I thought you were trying to get my attention. Okay, yeah, I hate to see any of this go up, but I personally feel that it's pretty reasonable considering the size, and what we're asking for the size of groups that, will come up and that sort of thing.
If I could add to that also.
Yeah.
Councilmember Such has a comment that she would like to make.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Such.
Mark, you can go first. It's okay.
Okay, well, it's germane to what the mayor was saying, and that is not only do some of us just have a natural antipathy towards some of these fees, but you have to remember, and part of what persuaded me is that when one of these groups gets this, it will be then excluding the rest of the public. So it will not be accessible for those of us who really enjoy just hiking up there. And if it's going to be one and the other, then that kind of swung my support in favor of this. So.
Cool. Anyone else?
Colette.
Oh, Colette is, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Colette.
Mark, I'm sort of going to repeat actually what Mark just said. It seems to me that it's really appropriate to have a fee when displaces the public use of the trails. And I just think this is and also I just, a not bike activity out there or a cancer fundraiser. I think that those are lovely activities to have out there. And I think the fees are really relatively low. So that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely not making money off of it. That's for sure. Councilmember Segerstrom.
Yeah, just a note about the special events that I have been to at Dragoon Gulch. They were really relatively early in the morning, so that the only people that really were out there, the one trail thing I remember doing, I think it started at 7, and it was over at 9 with a pancake breakfast or whatever. And so I don't, it really, it's a nice way to help pay for the trail. And I don't really think it displaces that many users who usually come later in the morning. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I guess I will, we've already had public comment, so I will look for a motion and a second.
I was still thinking we had public comment to go. Sorry. Then I will move to adopt resolutions 08-16-2021-A, establishing the Dragoon Gulch Trail event use permit for special events and fundraisers and use permit fee, and establishing a bench sponsorship fee.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Plummer. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Segerstrom?
Aye.
And Councilmember Sutch?
Hi.
Passes 5-0. And then I'm going to go back to unfinished business, I believe, Chief Vanderweel. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to come back to receive an update on use of funds donated from Faith Hamilton's senior project to purchase load-bearing vests for patrol officers. No action required.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Council. This is just to give an update on the program that we put together based on the donation from Faith Hamilton Senior Project. So as you remember, on October 5th, Council gave approval to accept a donation for $7,466 and some change from Faith Hamilton Senior Project, and also to approve the associated budget adjustments for the police department. As explained before, Faith organized a fundraising campaign for a senior project in 2020. Her goal was to raise $50,000 towards a canine patrol car and load-bearing vests for patrol officers. This event was postponed due to COVID, but Faith stayed determined, and she found other ways to raise the money, ultimately presenting the police department with a donation for that amount of money, $7,466.23 to purchase load-bearing vests. So, then it was on me to figure out how that works, because it's actually quite an undertaking to change a vest policy and a uniform policy. And so there's a lot of considerations with the bargaining unit, as well as safety, costs, and everything else in between. So, after a great deal of research, and really the research gave a good shaking up by our new lieutenant, who found us some really good point blank police guardian vests, and got us on the basically the piggyback the purchasing from Sacramento Police Department, which ultimately got us a better price. And we were able to modify designs to fit what we needed for our police department, really with respect to obviously safety, professional look, and comfort. So this is a finished product, what you see here. So this has basically, like a lot of the vests you see, the exterior vest carriers you see have a very militaristic look to them, with gear all over the place. A lot of times agencies have even a different color than their uniform. This one's designed after the uniform shirt that I'm wearing here, with the center button down, which is actually a zipper to open it up like a vest for easy removal and donning and doffing, basically quick donning and doffing. So it distributes a lot of the equipment evenly across the vest area, taking a lot of pressure off the hips, the back, and traditionally belts like myself that carry the equipment. They would cause discomfort for sitting in a patrol car for a long period of time, both on the hips, the abdomen, and also the back. Lots of medical claims over the years in the industry have been attributed to the equipment belt, a lot of them back and hip claims. So go ahead and turn around and show the back. So again, the back is designed just like a uniform shirt, such as I'm wearing, to really keep that professional, traditional look that we value with our police department specifically. You can turn it off. While still gaining the benefits of having the weight distribution on the vest rather than solely on the waist itself. Now, a lot of load-bearing vests. So typically, depending on what equipment is where, can weigh up to 25 pounds with the vest, the panel inserts themselves. So what's inside this vest is the same vest that we would normally wear under the uniform. It's just now in this exterior vest carrier, and as you can quickly take it off and put it back on. So it has the same safety as any other ballistic level 3 vest that we would have deployed with our officers. So additionally, these vests, these particular vests, we designed them or had them designed to where any equipment would remain below the pocket area. So we don't want to see, like I said, all the equipment mounted all over, and while we still maintain the professional look. I've heard a lot of positive comments from the officers already of the comfort. We assisted out when fire department did a bang-up job today. I don't know if you're going to hear about it, but if not, I'll tell you about it. But we assisted out there when our officers came back, pulled off his vest in a matter of seconds, and just was able to cool off a little bit. So they've already proved to be a great benefit. So as I've said before, Faith is an extraordinary young woman, and like the rest of her family, very involved in the community. They're there, I'm sorry. I'm sure you recognize some or all of them, just because they've been so ingrained in this community for so long. But she did a great job. She kept, hey, where's the vest? Where's the vest? She's been excited about it. We've been excited about it. So it finally came together just recently. I don't even think all of the officers have their vest put together yet. But we do have some. So if you have any questions, did you want to say anything or just respond to any questions about this?
If they have questions, I can answer.
Okay. So any questions for myself, Faith, or even the officers wearing them?
So what made you want to do something for the Sonora Police Department?
So my brother wants to be a cop, and I've been around these guys with like the baseball teams at the park and stuff, and they're all great people, and I feel like they're not supported as much as they should be, and it was my chance to turn around and support them how they support us. So I just wanted to do that for them because they're all amazing people.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree to that, and I believe we all do. So thank you.
Yeah.
Priscilla, how do they feel? I mean, is it less weight like on you, or is it just, how's it feel?
They're actually much more comfortable than the belt. It takes off, I've already noticed, it just takes off all the weight off your hips and your back, and much more comfortable, like Chief Vanderweel said, when it's really hot right now, over 100 degrees, you can take them off and cool off, whereas the vest under the uniform, you couldn't do that. So they've been a great benefit for us. On behalf of all of us at Patrol, thank you. We all appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure you felt a little more secure with it just a little bit ago as it was. So thank you. Y'all handle a lot when you're out on patrol. And I know most of us see that, but a lot of city residents don't see what you have to deal with, and we really appreciate it. So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, does that provide enough for every officer who wants one to have one? Well, that's incredible. So
Yes, we were able to purchase 16 vests with that
That's
donation.
great.
So it's really an incredible gift from the community and an incredible effort from Faith to put this together and present it to us. And I think it's really going to be something that over the long term, I think we're going to see a great return and fewer industrial injuries and just happier officers, right? All right.
Excellent. Any other questions? Councilmember Sagestrom?
Yeah, I just wanted to, from the void up here, say thank you, Faith, and what a terrific project. And I love that our police department is styling. So thank you, Chief Vanderwill, for making sure that they all still continue to look so smart and good and are adequately protected to protect us. So thank you.
And then
So,
I believe the Mayor Pro Tem had something.
I would also then like to thank Faith for your wonderful, contribution and support for our community, and remind many of the old people like me who believe it was always better and that the country's going to hell in a handbasket, that we have a lot of really good young people who are going to be our future, and that we appreciate that and want to support you in every way possible as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can't say thanks enough for helping us out and raising all that money to get these in and comes from a great family. So
Yeah, definitely. Okay, is there anything? Oh, Councilmember Such. You're still muted.
Sorry.
No,
Thanks.
you're not muted.
Faith, I do want to thank you, and I just liked your original plan to purchase vests and also a canine patrol. I mean, just a really, it's just a great idea, and I'm sorry COVID got in the way, but thanks for pursuing. And
with that, I'm still doing the event. I'm still going to raise money to do the canine unit because all of the money I raised from this was just ticket sales and donations. So I still have like all of the not large livestock, sorry, that's 4-H, like the live auction prizes and stuff. So I'm going to be planning to do it like November 13th if the county allows it. So that's the plan, to put the rest of the money towards the canine unit.
Oh, wow. I look forward to that. November 13. Okay.
Yeah, at the fairgrounds, starting from 5 to 9.
Okay. On the calendar.
Yep, I'll definitely be there. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So,
one last question, actually, for Taru, actually. So are the officers, if they still like the other one, are they still going to be able to wear the other one? How's this work?
Yes.
Are
so
they all? Okay.
It's an option. The original, so they would call it a Class C uniform if the officer was wearing this same uniform with the vest underneath. That's still authorized.
Mm-hmm.
This is a variation to the Class C uniform that's optional for officers. So we're not going to force people to wear them.
But it looks like most of them are going to wear it.
I think most of them just jumped at it and
Yeah.
are thrilled. So I think you're going to see all the officers actually wearing them. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, Faith, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's just awesome right there. Okay, on to a new business, item number 7. Consideration to agendize for discussion and possible action at a future date, guidance on use of masks in city-owned facilities per the recommendation of the Tuwami County Public Health Officer, excuse me.
So council members, the item before you is to, for consideration to agendize for discussion and possible action at a future date. Your guidance on masks in city-owned facilities based upon the recommendation from the public health officer. If you recall, on July 6th, the city council voted on a 3-2 vote to allow for the self-attestation of mask usage self-attestation of vaccination status, and then wearing of masks based on that vaccination status. At the time, and it is still the current mandate from the state, for those that are unvaccinated to be masked at all times within a facility. As you just heard from Dr. Surjenko and the Director of Public Health, Michelle Jaquetta, the recommendation from Public Health is now for those to be masked at all times indoors, regardless of vaccination status. So this item before you is to is for the council's consideration on whether or not the council would like to change that policy of the self-attestation of the mask versus the no mask, following the recommendation of the public health officer.
So one thing I'll throw out there to anyone just to make sure, and this is for public knowledge also, that we're not discussing the item, we're discussing the part to bring it back in front of the council. So that way it doesn't start a big debate and we're just going to discuss if we want to bring it back or not.
Yes, sir.
So who would like to go first? This is great.
No one wants to go back first. I'll go first since I'm kind of the one in the middle. I think we need to bring this back up for discussion. Plain and simple.
Okay.
That's it.
Cool.
I very much dislike it, but after the answers of Dr. Surjenko, which I listened to sincerely and believe are important data, that we need to at least discuss it.
So the way I will put it is pretty simple. After knowledge that I have learned today, I agree that we should bring it back for a discussion. Because I think there's some things that the public needs to know before we go any further, regardless of how I feel about any of this. Just, I think there needs to be some more knowledge put out there publicly for the public to know. I think Councilmember Such was first.
I try, in fear of being completely predictable, I'm very grateful that you're all suggesting that we bring this back for discussion. That's all. So I just wanted to thank you. That's it for me.
Councilmember Segerstrom, I thought you had your hand.
Yes, I did. I realized that you recognized me, so I put my hand down. But I think the data is changing all the time. The situation is changing, so it's smart to agendize it and review it based on the most recent data.
Okay, yeah, and again, I'll just make it for public comment because I know people are going to say, oh, he changed his mind or what have you. There's some other information that unfortunately I cannot share yet because we had talked in closed session, but I believe that going forward when we're able to talk about it, that the public should know about it so we can make a better decision. So plain and simple. I could go on and on. So you've got your direction?
That's my direction.
Excellent. And nobody argued. That's even better.
We took public comment, right? Did we take public comment?
No, we didn't. So, yeah, thank you, Jim.
But we haven't voted.
Is there any public comment
We didn't
on
vote
this?
on it. It was.
Yeah. Okay, 2 thumbs up. Okay, so I think that's all, and we'll bring it back to the council. Anything else? Okay. So on to, we've got the monthly reports. So I will start off with our, you know what, I'm going to do our fire chief first. So I see our police chief is busy. I hate putting him on the spot too. Sometimes I put him on the spot and he's like, whoa, wait a second here.
Well, for those of you that saw the excitement today, we did have a small fire located up off of Hope Lane. Ended up being just under about 1/8 of an acre, but it was in heavy brush and some dead, dying trees. The crew got in there very quickly, extinguished the fire, stopped the forward spread. We did have CAL FIRE respond out with their air attack, the copter and air tanker. They did do a drop along the upper ridge before it got out of the city limits, and it's right there on the border of the city and county and the limits. So quite the scare. I think the inversion layer, unfortunately, from the smoke from the Dixie fire and the Caldoran fire, I believe it's called, over in El Dorado forest, kind of put an inversion down over the city a little bit, which helped with keeping the wind drafts and that fire from taking off and having some upwind slope to it to break through that. Humidities were a little high today if everyone felt it's pretty muggy out there, so that also helped in the situation. But engine 751, she's been busy since we put her in service in May. She's doing a great job, and thank you to the other agencies, Tuwami County Fire, CAL FIRE, that came out and helped, and we also had one of the baseline crews was out today, so they did really quick work of putting a stop to the fire. So. Any questions?
Bravo.
Yes, first of all, thank you, thank you, and then everyone was involved. But I actually was going to ask you to speak on a little bit, because we're looking at the PSPSs here real soon, and I believe they're going to last longer and go on and on. Would you talk a little bit about maybe possibly how to safely do some generator, just common sense generator safety, and then also storage of gasoline?
Well, first, storing any kind of flammable liquids, make sure they're in a proper container, make sure they're a well-vented area. You don't want to have them in an area that you're sleeping or cooking. They need to be outside, either in the garage or outside in a shed, a place where animals and young people can't get their hands on them easily. You definitely don't want young children around any kind of flammable liquids. For those that do have a backup generator during PSPS, again, make sure your generator is located where it was established, hopefully by code. Most generators do require, a backup generator requires a permit to be installed. So if it was done properly and permitted, it should be in the proper location. Don't try to move it indoors. Keep it in the outside and make sure that it's only hooked up to the electrical components that it was initially proposed for. That's a big one. Try not to overload it. Remember that your neighbors and stuff, be mindful of their thoughts at night, because running a generator can be loud. So just be cautious of that. We're in the process of hopefully getting a shut off on the emergency generator at the fire department, because we always try to shut it down at night if we're not using it, to make sure the neighbors aren't awake, because they are very loud and noisy. The biggest thing with generators, I would say, though, is, again, clearance, defensible space around your home includes around an emergency generator. It can heat up, and if there's any kind of dry or dead grasses around it, could catch those on fire. So make sure you have proper clearance as well.
Thank you. I know a lot of people, especially with our addition of Harbor Freight, and then Lowe's is
self-proclaimed generators.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot more being sold. So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Councilmember Such, I apologize.
That's fine. Amy, as someone who lives on Myers Hill, I just want to thank you very, very much, and thank your staff and the other fire departments. Whenever there's a fire anywhere close, I feel like you're miracle workers. It's impressive work.
Well, I'll tell you, the hats off to the firefighters that were out there. They did a really good job. Like I said, they were quick on scene, even though we were dispatched to the wrong location. Initially, we were dispatched to Pesci Way in 49. So I was passing one of our police officers going the other direction, going code 3, and he was like, "Where are you going?" I'm thinking, "Where are you going?" So we got different information. So there was a short delay. I made it out of the station into Pesci before they even completed the dispatch, because I heard the initial call come in. So before they dispatched all the resources, I was over to Pesci and confirmed that it wasn't there. And I had an incredible vantage point from the Arco fire gas station across the way, and saw the fire, so I could give a quick on-scene report. Engine 751 was on scene first and started a progressive hose lay and knocked down the forward rate of spread, probably within, I'd say, 2 to 3 minutes. So they did a really quick work, and then a lot of mop up. We did have baseline come in. They had to take down a snag, which is a dead and dying tree that had fire going all the way to the top of it. So they were able to drop that down safely and buck it up, and then we were able to mop up everything, so there was no hot spots. So
Yeah, those scare me. I think Councilmember Sagstrom has a question for you also.
I just wanted to reiterate thanks. I do live on Hope Lane, and I was quite I mean, the sirens kept going past and past and past, and everybody was calling and going, "Oh my God, where is it?" And so that was really tricky. That Hope Lane up there gets very narrow, and so we really very much appreciate how well it was done. And I'm sure the people on the other side of the fire were very relieved because I don't think there's any access out on that other side of Hope Lane. So
No, it was right at the very top, the last address there at Hope Lane. And knowing the area that does tend and lean towards how you order resources and where you place them.
Yeah.
I only had 3 engines come up Hope Lane because I knew there wouldn't be any way to turn them around.
Yeah.
And it causes more chaos and problems if you can't get the resources in and out. So we had everyone else stage out from Jackson on up to Summit. They're on Hope Lane, and then luckily we didn't need them, but we had them there in case we did.
No,
So
no, it was really impressive. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Chief Vanderweel. Okay, thank you. On to Rochelle.
So my report's not near as exciting as a fire today, but when you're talking about generators, I want to let you know that our generators are at Public Works. We're waiting on the last of the electrical work to be done. We have to do we had to wait for the portable to get here so we can move it to the PD to give them a temporary generator while we do all the wiring for the new generator. And so that they have power while they shut down to hook everything up. So coordination is underway. We already moved the propane tank at the PD, if you guys saw that. The new propane tank for City Hall won't be installed till after the generator goes up. It'll be up on the parking structure. So it's all coming together. There's also some parts that the electrician is waiting on. As with everybody else, as you guys know, it's taking a long time to get components and other parts. So anyway, everything should be completed by the end of September, just to let you know that, and we should be fully functioning. Then the other thing is Magic of the Night was on the 6th. Thought it was a nice crowd. It was a nice evening. Started out really smoky, kind of opened up a little bit after that, but I think everybody had a really good time. So anyway, just wanted to talk about those 2 things. Thanks.
Thank you. Chris.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our city attorney.
Nothing more tonight, Mayor.
Okay.
I just wanted to share with the council and the public that the city of Sonora will be presenting a town hall public session on our Stewart Street affordable housing project on August 30th at 5 p.m. Now, we were anticipating to have it at the Upper Hall. However, with the new recommendations coming from Public Health, we're still working on the particulars on how we're actually going to present it to the public and what that's going to look like. But I wanted to let the public and the council know that that will be happening on August 30th. That's a Monday at 5 p.m.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Segestrom.
Okay. Sorry, just had to write down that date. Since the last meeting, I went to the Parks and Recreation meeting, and Rochelle and Mary Rose were also there. Adventist is putting in a lovely sort of a patient contemplation park at the end of their cancer building. With a labyrinth and plantings, and the suggestions basically were from fire perspective, shorter trees, and from the planting perspective, more drought tolerant native plants versus things like hydrangeas. But they were very receptive to our suggestions, and they will be pursuing their putting the park together. It should be lovely. Then I attended a homeless roundtable with Cal Cities, and it was very, very interesting. Little did I know that there is an interagency council on homelessness, and this person, the Helene Schneider, who spoke to us, is former mayor of Santa Barbara. But she was saying that, there's 161,000 homeless in California, and 70% of them are unsheltered. So they gave us a lot of data. They also suggested this interagency council as a source for funding for cities and counties. We're, strongly suggesting that state funding is flexible for the homeless. But I think the thing that I came away with from, the interaction with city and city officials was that, there's a real lack of cooperation here in Tuwami County between the city and the county. And most of the homeless, are in our immediate area. And I think that that we need to really work with David and the Board of Supervisors to see if there's some area of collaboration and cooperation in helping with the homeless. At San Mateo County, the city of Half Moon Bay, San Mateo came to them and suggested that they, recommended buying a hotel in Half Moon Bay to house 52 homeless. And the city said, well, we could look at it as a problem, but we looked at it as a profit to be able to take care of, a huge homeless problem that they were experiencing. So there must be more collaborative efforts between the city and the county, because I think Camp Hope, whoever's remaining there is probably migrating across the street from county property to city property. And, it's only going to worsen for the city. So anyway, and I do believe that Homeless Roundtable is available on the Cal City site if anybody wants to pursue it. And then the Yes Partnership, we had a presentation by Dr. Surgenko. I think mostly there's a drug take back day in October on the 24th. And also the Hope and Honor Suicide Walk will be happening on 9/11. And then just pursuant to the vegetation fire up the street, I think the city should look into grants for homeowners or property owners who are interested in brushing. I mean, if we had $500 grants, maybe we could get some of the properties cleaned up within the city and reduce the frightening possibility and probability of the flammable brush that's within our city limits. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segerstrom. Councilmember Such.
Thanks. We had a social equity committee meeting on the 9th. It was actually a great meeting, and I'm sorry, Jim, that you had to cover elsewhere, because it would have been nice to have you there. We came together really nicely as a group and made some good progress on the resolution, joining 3 themes common to resolutions written by different committee members. TCTC was canceled, so I didn't go there. I did attend on the 12th, the Tuwami County Commission on Homelessness. And that group is actually doing, I think, a lot of good work. I was assigned to a subcommittee that was to compile a list of services and put it together in an orientation manual. And because Kathy Peacock was on that committee, we did that actually pretty quickly. So that's complete. There's another subcommittee that was tasked with evaluating emergency shelter possibilities, able to provide a spot for folks from Camp Hope, but actually not just limited to folks from Camp Hope who were not able to find better accommodations. They were looking at like Caltrans land, empty buildings, stuff like that for possible home places for another homeless shelter. I was told at that meeting that on 12th, the people who were at Camp Hope were given a notice to comply. And on Friday, I'm sorry, that's not correct. On August 9th, they were given a notice to comply. And on the 12th, they were expected to vacate. And I don't know what the status is. Once they're sure that everyone is off that property, it will be fenced because it is toxic. And just an FYI that 95% of the folks who lived at Camp Hope were interested in housing. The myth that the unsheltered want to live like that, like they were living there, is kind of unfounded. This group also developed an ad hoc committee to explore a navigation center. Kathleen Half and our city administrator are involved with that, and I think visited a navigation center in Merced. And then the Resiliency Villages was contracting with the county to provide the room key, the case management for the room key folks. And that money actually runs out by the end of this month. So I'm not sure what's on the horizon there. I then also attended on the 13th an ATCA meeting. And they highlighted two of their programs. One was their Head Start program, and this is sort of dear to my heart because my first real job when I was 16 was working at a Head Start center in West Oakland, besides babysitting or washing my dad's truck. Anyhow, they've added an anti-bullying segment to their programs, and they create a wonderful early childhood environment for their children. Every study shows that dollars spent on quality early childhood care and education is saved eightfold over the life of that child. And the other program that was highlighted, I promise I'm wrapping this up. The other program that was highlighted was the ATCA Food Bank. And I'm going to actually tour, COVID allowing. I'm going to spend a day with the food bank and just kind of, a day in the life of the food bank. But I was just, they receive 1.4 million pounds of food every year, and they disperse 1.4 million pounds of food a year. And that's just what a great resource in our community. And I did try to find the homeless roundtable that Ann was speaking about today, but I couldn't find it on the site, but I've left a message to hopefully be able to watch. Anyhow, that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Garaventa.
Okay, as Colette mentioned that I wasn't able to go to the Social Equity Committee because they had a quorum call for the local agency formation commission, and went there instead, and we discussed, and I just lost it on my phone here. The main thing that went on in that meeting was a public workshop to comment on a municipal service review for the Groveland Community Services District. Now, the LAFCO does municipal service reviews for every sub-agency, including the city of Sonora, every so often. So it was actually valuable to go through that. It's been a little while, I think, since they've done a municipal service review, and they're going to start going through and doing some here. We did miss there was no Transportation Council meeting or Transit Authority meeting. Had to be canceled because of sickness. Also went to the Solid Waste Committee meeting, and a lot of discussion was on illegal dumping, mostly up many people know it as Beer Can Corner, up on old Yankee Hill Road out of Columbia. There's been a lot of, that's kind of the key area where it's been, but there's some effort now with the county to get fines and signs and all kinds of stuff to get people to stop dumping their garbage all over.
Wildlife cameras, maybe? Well,
that's the problem is catching, be able to use the camera. What they do at the dead of night, how are you going to see them? So there's been new efforts. One Pile at a Time folks were there talking about some of the cleanups they've had in the different areas. I think the next one is, he didn't mention it, he described it, but most people know it as Elsie's Pool, but he didn't say that. Which is back behind, downstream of where the old motorway crosses.
Behind the Dodge dealership.
Yeah, exactly. Where Solden's Creek. That's what I was trying to work for that. So I think that was next on their list, as well as another site. They had a draft resolution that they're going to send on to the full board, reasserting that there'd be two persons at large on the Solid Waste Committee. Apparently that was part of the resolution in the past, and somehow the public people have dropped off in some manner, and it's only been a council member and a couple of board of supervisors. And so they just want to reaffirm that. And it would be, those two people would, since it's a board of supervisors, solid waste committee, the board would choose those two people. And then they're going through trying to decide whether to re-up another 10-year extension for the county with waste management, or whether to make it, or go out for bid. And they're kind of following a bit of a two-pronged approach right now. I've just been a kind of like a bystander to that discussion, so it's going to have to go to the board for the board to decide. And also we had the final thing on that meeting was what they call the EAR, the Electronic Annual Report, was submitted both for the city and for the county. I don't know if you've gotten a copy. Did you guys get a copy yet? Okay. Yeah. And actually we are, one of the components that was pointed out in this, every year you have to give stuff to the state, information. And we are actually well under remember quite a few years ago now, I think it's been, that we were supposed to be, reduce our waste stream to 50% of what it was in 1990. I think that sounds about right. And we are actually well under that 50% threshold in the city, as they've calculated, and the county is a little behind. However, I kind of looked at the parameters that they chose, and it seems like our baseline is a little higher than the county's baseline, so it may be kind of we may be lucking out on statistics, but still, according to the state, we're behind we're still well ahead of being under the 50% threshold. So that's about it. I can't think of anything else. So.
Okay. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
I had a question regarding the city workshop on the 30th. Is that going to be filmed? I regret that I probably won't be able to make it. And I'm hoping that I can see what public comment is. And
so we're still working out the particulars and all of that, okay, and how that's going to look like. It will most likely be at least live streamed, I'm guessing, but it depends on where the location's at. If we do it in the Opera Hall, we can't do that. If we do it here, we can, because the Opera Hall doesn't have the setup for that.
Yeah. But I'm thinking less of a live stream and certainly, and more of, will it be available for review at a later date?
So again, we can't record it in the Opera Hall. It would have to be, these have the cameras here.
Yeah. Thank you. And nothing further this evening.
I attended Magic of the Night. I actually did 2 loops around, and then the wife and I hung out at the Fire Museum for a while, had a snow cone. So Chief served us, I think. It was great. Attended the LAFCO meeting, and then the big thing I got to do was, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, I got to walk around with the CEO of what's becoming to be a major electric car charging company. And they're looking at Tuwami County. They see a lot of opportunity. So I got in touch with them actually and said, hey, we have a definite need here. The big companies aren't interested in us yet. So got to walk them around downtown and walk the CEO and his assistant around downtown. They took pictures, gave them some names, and hopefully we're able to, help get this going here in this county. So I told them I'll do as much as I can legally, and then I have to stay out of it. But hopefully got some handshakes going and people talking. So that is all I have, and we will adjourn at 6:49 p.m.